and around the world. Discover new destinations, forgotten favorites, and exciting travel stories by joining me, the Full Metal Traveler, each Saturday at 2 p.m. on Unscaled right here on KSHP AM 1400 and the all-new 107.1 FM north of Las Vegas.
Join us for a once-in-a-lifetime experience to see the Hoover Dam up close and personal on a guided tour of Lake Mead. Sit back and enjoy the cool breezes aboard the Desert Princess paddle wheel boat while taking in the sights of the greatest man-made engineering wonder of the modern world and National Historic Landmark. To reserve a spot on the Hoover Dam Sightseeing Tour or the Sunset Dinner Cruise, visit LakeMeadCruises.com. Open Road Radio, Monday night at 6 on KSHP, North Las Vegas, AM and FM, 829-68B, North Las Vegas, and KSHP.com.
The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the program's participants and do not necessarily reflect those of station staff, management, and advertisers.
It's time for the most interactive radio program in Las Vegas today. It's time for Pushing the Limits with Brian Shapiro. Brian will talk sports, politics, entertainment, and anything that matters to you. Feel free to call Brian at 702-221-7283.
You want answers? I want the truth!
Now, Pushing the Limits, here's Brian Shapiro.
What's up, everybody? Happy Hump Day. Happy Wednesday. It is Pushing the Limits time. Happy Republican Debate Day. Yes, that's what we're doing today. We're going to be doing a lot of that. Welcome to the show. We're broadcasting everywhere, the FM AM dial. Of course, we're broadcasting on social media, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, the Facebook fan page, Twitch. We're all over the place. And we appreciate you making us a part of your day. We've got some very special guests lined up to preview what should be, I think, an interesting first Republican debate leading up to the 2024 elections. Two people that I respect very much and look forward to their takes on what to expect tonight, starting with Daniel Lippman from Politico. He's going to be joining us at the bottom of the hour. Really, really good reporter. Kind of preview what's going on here with these 8 candidates that will be up there on a stage tonight. And then coming up in hour number 2, we'll be joined by former presidential candidate and former Congressman Joe Walsh. I know he's going to have some very strong opinions as well. Following the big news, of course, Vladimir Putin killing. I think it's pretty obvious now. You could say, well, Brian, we don't know that for sure. But again, Vladimir Putin killing somebody, murdering somebody and others in a plane crash. This wasn't just a normal plane crash. If you look at video that has surfaced, it's plummeting. And that would lead most people to believe, unless it's catastrophic failure of the airplane, that it was shot down by, again, a leader who went after the Putin regime. So this is the same Vladimir Putin that many on the extreme far right are rooting for, including people that'll be on the debate stage tonight, Ramaswamy as well, who says that to end the war, he would give parts of Ukraine to Vladimir Putin. Yeah, that's a real brilliant idea. I hope Chris Christie and some of these other candidates on the stage just blast him for that, but they probably won't because they are cowards. And I tell you, I'm getting really, really sick of misinformation, lies being put forth by the extreme right. And it happened again yesterday. Let me explain. It involves Joe Biden. Conservative pundits and even, high-profile conservatives on television like the Sean Hannitys of the world, the Laura Ingrams of the world. Forget about the idiots that I used to work with in radio who have no platforms. I'm talking about people who actually have platforms. Sean Hannity, people like that, who used low-quality video on social media platforms yesterday to spread a false claim that President Joe Biden fell asleep during a memorial for Maui wildfire victims. Hannity was among those who shared this low-resolution video on Twitter, and Hannity's post was viewed more than 425,000 times within just a few hours. And similar people posted videos like Charlie Kirk's of the world, receiving thousands, even more views on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Now, high-resolution video from the nonpartisan network C-SPAN shows that Joe Biden looked downward for about 10 seconds while he was seated at a table in this video. Biden watches someone who's speaking. He coughs. He looks downward and then nods in agreement with the speaker when talking about those who have lost loved ones and people who had lost their homes. And the man that was speaking said his son lost his home. And again, this was only like a few seconds. The video is like 10 seconds while he's nodding his head, and then he looks back up again and delivered a speech to that same audience. And the higher resolution video shows that Biden kept his eyes open for most of the time as he was looking downward. His open eyes. And at least one member of Congress, Representative Troy Nehls, a Republican out of Texas, of course, shared the low-resolution version. And a spokesperson says everyone with eyes can draw their own conclusion about whether President Biden was nodding off in the video. Asked for comment about the Maui video, White House spokesperson Andrew Bates said in an email, "It's unfortunate they feel the need to lie. Instead, they should join him in supporting the people of Maui." I couldn't agree more. Low-quality videos are an example of what some misinformation researchers call cheap fakes. Media that can mislead people through simple techniques, even amid growing concerns about more advanced ways to create misleading content through artificial intelligence. Another well-known example involved then House Speaker Nancy Pelosi in a video that someone slowed down to make it sound like she was slurring her words. And by the way, Sean Hannity spread that misinformation as well. And why is this important? Because it's what those on the far right have been doing for years. I think since 2016 is spreading misinformation and lies about people and doctoring videos. These people have nothing better to talk about. They have no solutions, or we're going to get to the debate. They have no solutions to real problems that are facing this country. So what do they decide to do? Oh, Biden's doing nothing for the people of Maui. Well, when that turned out to be a lie, and when the facts actually came out that Joe Biden declared a state of emergency within 3 hours of the fire, and that money had been sent and more money would be coming, they decided to look at a video and lie and make it seem like Joe Biden fell asleep for 10 seconds, which, by the way, couldn't be further from the truth if you actually watch the video. Because they have nothing better to talk about. They have nothing. And you're going to see that on a debate stage tonight. I guarantee you, every single person, and there are at least one or two people that I have respect for that are going to be on the stage tonight, they have no real solutions to the problems facing this country. They just don't. And one perfect example of that is the border. You want to talk about a despicable human being. And no, believe it or not, right now I'm not talking about Donald Trump. It's Governor Greg Abbott, who I've called him Governor Abhole, who has no empathy for people, who is disgusting. And if you want to know anything you needed to know about Governor Greg Abbott, hours after the Uvalde shooting, he drove to a fundraiser. They hadn't even finished counting the young children's bodies in that classroom, and Abbott was out at a fundraiser event. That's all you need to know about Governor Greg Abbott as a human being. He is a scumbag. He is scum of the earth, and he is a disgusting person. But you won't hear this story on Fox News. You won't hear this story on OAN. Does that even still exist? I don't even know. You certainly won't hear it on Newsmax. You won't hear it on echo chamber conservative talk radio either. Because Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass has been criticizing Greg Abbott this week. What did Greg Abbott do? He bused migrants to the city as Tropical Storm Hillary drenched Southern California. That's right. He took migrants out of the state of Texas, put them on a bus, and sent them to where a hurricane, right in the middle of a hurricane. The bus departed Texas on Sunday as Los Angeles officials warned residents to brace for the dangerous and unprecedented storm. The bus arrived on Monday at Union Station in downtown Los Angeles carrying 37 migrants, including 16 families and 14 children and an infant. The mayor said it's evil to endanger the lives of vulnerable migrants by sending a bus with families and toddlers on board to a city that at the time was under unprecedented tropical storm warning. She said, as I stood with the state and local leaders warning to stay safe and brace themselves for the worst that was still coming, the governor of Texas sent families and toddlers straight for us on a path through extreme weather conditions. The mayor said she and her team became aware of the bus when the city's emergency operations center was activated to a higher level in response to the storm. Hillary had rolled into Southern California on Sunday. She said, if anybody understands the danger of hurricanes and thunderstorms, it's the governor of Texas, who has to deal with this threat on an annual basis. She said this is despicable, and it's a despicable act beyond politics. I could not agree more. Now, even though this isn't identical to what took place with Governor DeSantis in Florida, in some ways it is similar. In that you are using human beings as political pawns. You are using human beings to try to own the libs. You are using children, pregnant mothers, people who are seeking asylum, and you are using them as political pawns. And it's despicable. And it shouldn't happen. But there are also people on the far right that would defend it. And that's wrong also. And it's sad, because if you really do care about human beings, regardless of whether they're in this country legally or illegally, then you wouldn't do what Governor Abbott did on Monday. You wouldn't just take a bunch of people, put them on a bus, and send them to where a tropical storm was headed or had already headed to during a state of emergency. You just wouldn't do that because it's wrong. And it's very similar, though, to what, as I said, what Governor DeSantis did in sending those to Martha's Vineyard. Now, it wasn't during a storm, luckily. But when you use human beings as political pawns and you use human beings to try to own the libs, you're despicable. Governor Abbott is despicable. Ron DeSantis is despicable. But they're champions for the Republican Party. Should we be surprised? There's no excuse. And make no mistake about it, tonight on the debate stage, they're going to talk about the border crisis as if it wasn't there before Joe Biden. And that's also a lie, because we've had issues at the border for decades and decades and decades, and Republicans and Democrats need to come together to come up with solutions. There's no question about that. This isn't a Republican problem. It's not a Democrat problem, not a right or left issue. It's an American problem. And it always has been. But when we decide to use human beings and not treat them as human beings, treat them as political pawns, that's when you lose. That's when you lose the debate. That's when you lose the discussion. And that's when you're wrong. Now, I can tell you what I think is going to happen on the debate stage tonight. And I will get to that. But the big story is not going to be those that are on the debate stage. It's going to be those that might be watching Donald Trump on X or Twitter or whatever the heck it's called, an interview with Tucker Carlson. Now, listen, people with no credibility are still brown-nosing Donald Trump. Kari Lake has the brownest nose of them all. And this is kind of comical. It's almost like a Saturday Night Live skit. I want you to listen to what Kari Lake had to say yesterday about Donald Trump and comparing him to the best baseball player of all time. Have a listen to this.
President Trump is going to be fine missing this debate. It's just going to be a setup by Fox. You know how it is. Brett Baer will ask a bunch of nasty questions, try to get President Trump. Who knows? They might even try to get him in legal trouble. And so I think it's smart that he's sitting this one out. These guys are all, I like to say, I used to call them the little league team, but I think they're more of the T-ball team than what we're dealing with President Trump, which is the Babe Ruth of all of politics. Why would we even waste his time? President Trump is...
Yeah. Why would we even waste his time? Because Donald Trump is the Babe Ruth of politics, because Babe Ruth was facing 91 felonies. Babe Ruth was facing 4 indictments. Babe Ruth had a fake orange tan. Babe Ruth had 25 women that accused him of sexual assault or rape. Babe Ruth buries his ex-wives on his golf courses so that he could save money on his taxes. Because Babe Ruth hit on his daughter. Babe Ruth was found liable of sexual abuse, wasn't he? Babe Ruth said these Mexicans, they're rapists and they're bad people, and I suppose some of them are good people. Babe Ruth went after POWs, said he didn't respect John McCain because he was captured, right? Babe Ruth attacked Gold Star families. Did Babe Ruth file for bankruptcy 4 times? Did Babe Ruth get $500 million from his father and flush it down the toilet? Because I'm sure Babe Ruth would fly out to a tragedy in a state or country and toss paper towels out to people and Babe Ruth hats, Babe Ruth jerseys. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. To make that comparison to Babe Ruth shows you what an imbecile and what a dumb ditz Carrie Lake is, and what a moron she is. But then again, if you're a MAGA supporter, you definitely support Carrie Lake. Hence, MAGA morons. This just in, by the way, speaking of morons, Rudy Giuliani has just surrendered at Atlanta jail. I wonder if his makeup is, I wonder if it's dripping from his ears. He's just surrendered at an Atlanta jail to be booked on state charges in the Georgia 2020 election subversion case. Former President Donald Trump, of course, and 18 co-defendants face Friday noon deadline, and Donald Trump is scheduled to surrender. I don't know if Rudy Giuliani has counsel yet. Last I checked, he's broke. Maybe another MAGA moron that will be filing for bankruptcy. And then all these people are wondering why Donald Trump isn't helping them. Even Alex Jones admitted it in a video, and many of these MAGA morons will be admitting it soon. I wish I never met Donald Trump. Boy, I wish I never met that guy. Listen, there's nothing wrong with meeting him, but it's aligning with him and supporting him and lying for him. That's what gets you into trouble. There's a lot of people. I know people in my life that have met Donald Trump. Guess what? They didn't do business with him. They didn't align themselves with him. They might have had a lunch with him or a dinner with him. And by the way, that dinner wasn't with a neo-Nazi or Kanye West. There's nothing wrong with meeting Donald Trump. There is something wrong with, at this point and in the last several years, defending him and lying for him, which is exactly what Rudy Giuliani did. And now he's turning himself in. When are people finally going to realize that maybe if you're associated with Donald Trump, maybe it's not a good thing. Maybe you're going to go to jail. Maybe you'll be convicted, a convicted felon. Maybe it's not such a good idea to align yourself with Donald Trump. And to the life of me, I still don't understand why so many people still support him unless they're just dumb. There's a lot of stupid people in this country, I guess. But I want to save you all some time because I care about you. And if you're thinking of watching the first Republican debate tonight, I want to give you a rundown of what I think is going to happen. And coming up at the bottom of the hour here in about 10 minutes, we're going to be speaking to Daniel Lippman from Politico. He's going to be joining us to kind of preview the debate tonight. And then former presidential candidate and Congressman Joe Walsh will be joining us in hour number 2. If you're thinking of watching the debate tonight, I'm going to tell you exactly what I think is going to happen. First of all, they're going to blame Joe Biden for everything. Let's just be prepared for that. If you have a hangnail, they're going to blame Joe Biden for it. They're going to blame him for everything. They're certainly going to blame him for the border crisis, even though his policies are almost identical to Donald Trump's policies. There's virtually no difference, but they're going to claim that the borders are wide open, which, by the way, they're not. If you want to make the claim that there needs to be more border security, more efficient border security, then I don't have a problem with that. But to say that the borders are wide open is a lie. It's like saying COVID is a hoax. It's a lie. But I guarantee you, even Chris Christie, he'll say that the borders are wide open. Again, the borders are not wide open. That's a lie. I guarantee you that at least one and maybe several of the candidates that are on the stage are going to be talking about how Democrats and teachers are indoctrinating our kids. Which, by the way, is not happening. 300,000 teachers, maybe you could find a few here and there, and those teachers should be fired. But as a whole, teachers are not indoctrinating our kids. There's nothing wrong with saying being gay is okay. There's nothing wrong with saying being transgender is okay. That's not indoctrinating kids. But I guarantee you, many of the candidates that are up there on the stage tonight, I should say, in Wisconsin, will be saying that Democrats are responsible for indoctrinating our kids, and drag queens reading book to kids, the sky is falling. They're not going to talk about gun control, and they're not going to talk about mass shootings and gun violence and one of the leading causes of death in kids. But I guarantee you they'll be talking about gender ideology, transgenders, drag queens, and how Democrats are indoctrinating our kids. I guarantee you that's going to be a big part of this debate tonight. They'll talk about banning books and how these books are sexualizing our kids. They'll talk about something that virtually doesn't exist, which is critical race theory. Maybe a few professors are still teaching it. Critical race theory is not being taught in our schools, but Republicans will talk about it on a debate stage tonight. I guarantee you that. They'll talk about inflation and gas prices, and they won't talk about how that's been up across the world since the war in the Ukraine started in COVID. They won't talk about how inflation is up all over the world. They'll just talk about it here, and they'll blame Joe Biden for it. But they won't come up with the policies and the reasons why, and they certainly won't come up with solutions. I'll get to that in a moment. And then they're definitely going to talk about Ukraine tonight on a day where a Russian leader who has defied Vladimir Putin in some ways and criticized him was murdered today in the sky. It happened several hours ago, and I'm not going to sit here and say that this plane crash was an accident, because it wasn't. Vladimir Putin is known for this, killing any of his own people that disagree with him, and it happened again today. And if you look at the video of a plane making a dart to the ground, there is no question that that plane was shot out of the sky. I have no doubt in that at all.
Also, his second in command was on that plane, too.
Correct. They both were, and that's not a coincidence either. They picked a time where they were both together, no question, and they shot that plane out of the sky at the command of Vladimir Putin. And while all this stuff is going on, you got people like Ramaswamy, who I think is so disingenuous with the things he says. And when asked about the war in the Ukraine, well, we want America to win, so we're just going to give Vladimir Putin parts of Ukraine. Just let him take the win because it's better for the United States of America. What a clown he's going to sound like tonight, and I hope Chris Christie and others go after him because he is a clown and he has no idea what he's talking about when it comes to foreign affairs. He thinks that's how you're going to end the war in the Ukraine. Let's just give Vladimir Putin parts of another nation. Are you kidding me? And this is a guy that some people think is a serious candidate for president of the United States, Ramaswamy. Are you kidding me? And here's the most important point I want to make about the debate tonight. I guarantee you, of the 8 candidates that are up there on a stage tonight, I guarantee you, the overwhelming majority of them will be bitching and moaning and complaining about Democrats and all those things that I listed, but they will have no real solutions to any of the problems facing this country. None. They won't have any solutions about inflation or high gas prices. They'll definitely complain about it, but they'll have no solutions. They won't talk about gun violence. They won't talk about health care. They won't talking about helping the poor. They won't be talking about maternity leave or raising minimum wage. They won't be talking about any of the real issues facing this country and what they plan to do about it if they're elected president. They will only bitch and moan about Democrats while brown-nosing Donald Trump. And there will be people on the stage tonight that will say that they're willing to pardon Donald Trump. In fact, last I checked, there's only a few candidates that will be up there on the stage. Hutchinson's one of them, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Chris Christie is another one that would said they would not pardon Donald Trump. The rest of those despicable people on that stage, yes, Nikki Haley is an idiot. The rest of the people on this stage would consider pardoning Donald Trump, regardless of the evidence or being convicted of a serious crime. They would pardon Donald Trump. And these are the same people that are talking about Hunter Biden's laptop and trying to call the Biden family the crime Biden family because of Hunter Biden. And these are the same people that would pardon Donald Trump. They have zero credibility. The one thing maybe I'm looking forward to is Chris Christie calling out Donald Trump, who, by the way, will not be on a stage tonight because he's a coward. Instead, he'll be doing an interview with Tucker Carlson. That is what this debate, in my opinion, is going to be in a nutshell. But we're going to see what Daniel Lippman from Politico has to say about that. He's going to be coming up at the bottom of the hour. And, of course, we have former presidential candidate Joe Walsh that is going to be joining us in hour number 2. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. But in my personal opinion, that is what you're going to see on the debate stage tonight. Maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised. Maybe they'll actually be coming up with some sort of solutions to the issues facing this country. I seriously doubt it. And on a day where Vladimir Putin, in my personal opinion, I think it's pretty obvious, murdered people in the sky, shot down a plane, I guarantee you there will be very little criticism of Vladimir Putin on that stage tonight. Again, maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised, but we'll find out. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I love Politico. I think they have a lot of great reporters out there that are very fair and very good at what they do. Daniel Lippman is one of them, and he's going to be joining us next. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premium Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Brian Shapiro from Pushing the Limits here. Fantasy football draft is upon us. And in Las Vegas, your number one draft party destination is Sapphire. Don't miss their sexy sports podcaster and Instagram vixen, Lisa Ann, kicking off the fantasy football draft party poolside at Sapphire Day Club, complete with dozens of topless entertainers and cocktail servers, bartenders, free Wi-Fi, and, of course, fantasy draft boards to stake your top picks. Draft poolside or inside Sapphire Las Vegas. Packages are available now online at SapphireLasVegas.com and SapphireDayClub.com. Text or call 702-869-0003 to reserve your draft party today. Again, that number, 702-869-0003. And I'll see you at Sapphire.
Buying or selling a home is a huge life event that requires guidance from an expert in the industry and community. My name is Blake Wynn. You may recognize my name as my grandfather was the best governor the state of Nevada has ever had. Growing up in Las Vegas, I've come to know this community intricately. Now, I am raising a family here as well, so I understand all the issues impacting our home and quality of life. As the top realtor for the #1 real estate team at Keller Williams, you can have confidence in my experience, knowledge, and track record. When it comes to buying, selling, or investing in real estate, choose a name you can trust and someone who understands the community you call home. Call Blake Wynn today and experience the difference of a trusted expert. 702-540-3311.
Hey everybody, it's Brian Shapiro from Pushing the Limits here. I want to tell you guys about my good friends at the Postal Annex. They have a notary signing agent on-site daily, no appointment needed, and they offer a full scale of printing services from shipping labels to documents, business cards, banners, photos, and business signage. They're your passport service headquarters. They offer passport photos, and they can renew your adult passports. If you're traveling in a hurry, they can get those passports to you within 7 days or less. Mailbox rentals with a physical street address, and they also receive your packages from Amazon, UPS, FedEx, USPS, and more. Here's the best part. If you're a Pushing the Limits listener, they have an introductory rate of only $39 for a 3-month service. You can't beat it. Give them a call. 702-873-8005. Check them out at 6130 West Flamingo Road. It's the Postal Annex. Tell them I sent you.
Hey everybody, it's Brian Shapiro from Pushing the Limits. I want to tell you guys about Sahara West Urgent Care and Wellness. They're conveniently located on the southwest corner of Sahara and Jones. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. At Sahara West Urgent Care, they'll take care of all your healthcare needs. They offer routine services such as physicals, STD testing, car accident treatment, and work injuries. You name it, they do it. They have on-site x-ray, EKG, ultrasound, and labs. They treat chronic conditions such as asthma, blood pressure, diabetes, and more. They also offer general wellness exams and treatments such as testosterone enhancement and cancer screening. They're located on Sahara, 6125 West Sahara Avenue. Their number is 702-248-0554. And the best part, they accept most major insurances and affordable cash pay prices, office visits starting at just $95. And I'm also a client, so please give them a call, 702-248-0554.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Wednesday. Programming note tomorrow on the show, the former Republican chair here, Amy Tarkanian, will be joining us with a reaction to the debate. I want you to check out my good friends, my favorite gaming bar in town, Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones. Great food, great atmosphere, great people. And they also have some great gaming promotions. And if you're a law enforcement in uniform, you get a free lunch out there. And if you're in the industry, you get $50 free slot play, match play bonus. So check them out, Jackson's Bar and Grill, located in Flamingo and Jones. As I mentioned, Republican debate tonight in Wisconsin. Will it be overshadowed by Donald Trump's interview with Tucker Carlson? Well, to talk about that and much more, I love the people at Politico. I think they do a wonderful job. And Daniel Lippman, a reporter there, is certainly no exception to that. And he joins us right now on the line. Daniel, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you coming on, as always, Daniel. I guess that would be my first question before we talk about the actual debate tonight and what to expect. Do you feel like Donald Trump's interview with Tucker Carlson, in a way, will overshadow the debate tonight?
In some ways, but not that much, because viewers who want to watch the debate will tune in anyway, and they'll want to get introduced to these candidates and see how they measure up against each other. Mm-hmm. And so the Trump voters who were going to vote for Trump no matter what, I'm sure some of them will actually tune into the debate as well and watch the Trump-Tucker interview later. Mm-hmm. But I'm sure some of them will just not tune into the debate because they've already made up their mind.
You know, Daniel, we had Larry Elder on the show last week, and as you know, Larry Elder is now threatening to sue the RNC, and he won't be on the debate stage tonight. He's claiming that the Rasmussen poll shows that he has more than 1%, and that's why he should be on the stage. What do you make of this situation? Let's start there with someone who's not going to be on the stage tonight, and Larry Elder.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not that surprising, because these rules have been pretty crystal clear for all of the candidates in their campaigns. They've been in close touch with the RNC, and so of course there's going to be griping, and you have people like Francis Suarez, the mayor of Miami, who has said he would drop out of or candidates should drop out if they don't make the first debate stage. And he had said last week, "Oh, I made the debate, I'm in," and he is not going to be on the debate stage tonight because the RNC determined that he was not eligible. And so I think these are kind of like, politicians or wannabe politicians who are crying over, they're saying, "Oh, they're big crocodile tears."
I agree with you 100%. So let me start by asking you this, Daniel, as someone, you do this for a living. What are you most looking forward to tonight? What is the one candidate that you're looking, if anybody, that you're looking forward to hearing on this national stage in the biggest of moments? What are you actually looking forward to tonight? I guess that's my question.
Well, I think to see how Ron DeSantis, if he's able to save his campaign, because this is kind of a make or break moment for him, and make or break is a little, it's more of a break moment, because even if he has a great debate, that doesn't mean that the millions of people who support Trump are going to be like, well, now I like DeSantis because of one debate. They've liked Trump for many years, and that's going to be very hard for them to leave his fold. So I'm looking to see how he deals with the attacks from all sides that he will get from the other people on the stage, and also to see how Vivek Ramaswamy, if he is able to match some of the hype that has been building around him.
Is it fair to say that the person who has most to win or lose tonight might be Ron DeSantis? Is that fair to say?
I would say that because he wants to reverse the slide into the polls, and he needs to tell the big donors who have been supporting him as an anti-Trump, hey, I'm still in the game, continue to give me money, support my super PAC, and don't shift to someone like Ramaswamy or Tim Scott. And so he needs to quiet those doubts. And so tonight's the best opportunity to do that.
Of all the people that are on the debate stage tonight, who do you think is most likely Donald Trump to pick as his vice president, assuming, and I think we all assume, that Donald Trump will be the nominee?
That's a great question. If I had to say, probably Nikki Haley or Tim Scott, just depending on who he has a better relationship with.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to pick someone like Terry Lake or the South Dakota governor who's got Kristi Noem.
Right.
But because they're kind of like old news, and Terry Lake might run again for Arizona Senate against Sinema and Gallego. So I would say that Scott and Haley.
I think Haley would be number one. I completely agree with you. I think Scott would be right behind him. If you're just joining us, Daniel Lippman, reporter for Politico, talking about the first Republican debate in Wisconsin tonight. I believe it starts at 6 p.m. on the West Coast, 9 p.m. On the East Coast. All right, so let's talk about kind of the meat and potatoes, I think, of what they're going to be discussing today. Let's start with Ukraine. You know all the candidates, and they're going to be asked about Ukraine. There's big news, as I'm sure you've seen, Daniel, a few hours ago, a plane that appears to have been shot down with leaders that have been against Vladimir Putin. They have gone against the grain, and now they are dead. I am going to make the assumption that this wasn't just a coincidence. I'm going to make the assumption that Vladimir Putin had something to do with this plane crashing into the ground, and yet you're going to have candidates on the stage that are probably not going to say anything negative about Vladimir Putin. They're going to attack the Biden administration for sending money over to Ukraine. How do you think, if at all, what has taken place today with this plane crash can affect the debate tonight, and maybe will be asked about this situation today?
I think it doesn't affect the debate that much, but it shows and underlines the brutality of Vladimir Putin, if anyone had any doubts. And so the candidates who have been kind of not pro-Putin, but pro-letting Ukraine and part of Ukraine just be given up to Russia, those people are going to be on their back heels, because we saw in this apparent assassination of Prigozhin, Yevgeny Prigozhin, who started the Wagner Group, that Putin brooks no dissent, and he will literally shoot people out of the sky who opposed him in that failed coup. And so I think those candidates have a lot to answer for in terms of, hey, is it a good idea to concede to Russia? That's not to say that this will eventually end up in a negotiation.
Right.
But I think that a lot of foreign policy experts recommend that you wait until the Ukrainians are tired of fighting, and then they will indicate, hey, let's go to the negotiating table. You don't try to force them to when they're a democracy.
I want to ask you a two-part question here. What do you make of some of the candidates like Vivek Ramaswamy, who said that to end the war, he would give Putin parts of Ukraine, which I found mesmerizing. And then the overwhelming majority of these candidates, except for maybe Chris Christie and Hutchinson, saying that they would pardon Donald Trump. I mean, to me, these are extreme views. What do you make of at least 6 out of the 8 candidates saying that, and a guy like Ramaswamy who says to end the war, he would give Putin parts of Ukraine?
Well, I think it's it's a clear play for these Trump voters, because that is a big part of the Republican Party. At least half are supporting Trump, and then the rest are, some of them are sympathetic to Trump. A lot of them voted for him in 2020. One thing we might not have considered is that just because they say they can pardon Trump, that doesn't mean that they can pardon him of state charges.
Right.
He could be in a Georgia jail for the rest of his life, and a federal pardon from President Ramaswamy has no bearing on his freedom. And so it's almost like a academic exercise and a pure political play, not this will keep Trump out of jail card.
Yeah, I agree, and that's a very good point that you make. Regardless of whether he's pardoned, which I don't think that's going to happen, he can still be spending some serious time behind bars and still spend a life sentence, hypothetically, behind bars. All right, tell me, Daniel, if you think I'm oversimplifying what we are going to see tonight on the debate stage. Here's what I think they're going to blame Joe Biden for everything. They're going to talk about the border crisis as if it didn't exist before Joe Biden. I said they're going to talk about drag queens and gender identity and how Democrats are indoctrinating our kids. They're going to talk more about banning books that they feel are inappropriate. They're probably going to talk about critical race theory, which virtually doesn't exist. You know, they're going to talk about gas prices and inflation, even though it's all over the world. They're going to blame Joe Biden for it. And obviously, they'll talk about Ukraine, and I don't think we're going to hear a lot of solutions to any of the problems facing this country. And let's not forget, they'll talk about Hunter Biden endlessly. That's what I think we're going to hear tonight. Am I wrong?
I don't think you're wrong, but we should remember that these candidates, they're appealing to Republican primary voters. And so the electorate in the Republican primary has been primed, not to use that word too many times, by places like Fox News and the conservative media establishment to view issues like transgender issues, drag queens, all of the rest of it, CRT in the schools, as the major problems of our society. They're not as concerned about climate change or American inequality, and that's just traditional Republican conservative business belief. And so they are doing their job for their voters. This is not a general election debate. Once you have the general election, then, of course, they will move to the center.
I wanted, before I give you, or I ask you your predictions on who do you think is going to have a good night or a bad night, I guess that'll be my last question. But before I do that, I was talking a little bit, Daniel, in the first segment about this Joe Biden video yesterday where conservative pundits, people like Sean Hannity and Charlie Kirk, were putting this video out there, this low-quality video of Joe Biden in Maui, putting his head down for maybe 5 to 10 seconds, and they were all claiming that he fell asleep, which obviously is not true. Anybody who actually watches the video would tell you that he was nodding his head most of the time with his eyes open. It lasted 5 to 10 seconds, almost looked like he was praying. What do you make of this era where we see these videos and the misinformation, not just from people at the water cooler, but for people with huge platforms like Sean Hannity? And I'm just going to call it, they're lying. They're lying. Joe Biden was not falling asleep. He was praying, it appeared, and nodding his head, and he spoke to that same crowd moments later. What do you make of that?
Well, I haven't watched the video, unfortunately, so I guess it's, late August. Sometimes I was focused on longer-term investigative stories. But generally speaking, facts have never gotten in the way of a good narrative for both sides, and especially opinion hosts on Fox News, because their audience is not interested in a Walter Cronkite type narrative of what's going on. This is not the 1960s where you have 3 networks. This is people, if they want to get just straight news, they read the AP or watch the BBC or something. Yeah. But this is online. Of course, everything catches fire, and something that appears to be Biden falling asleep, that will they will fire up their jets. But he has had some issues in terms of his Hawaiian response, and saying no comment and being slow to talk about it and visit it. So, that's definitely, he was getting booed a little bit during his trip there.
Yeah, no doubt about that. What do you make of Kerry Lake calling Donald Trump the Babe Ruth of politics yesterday? What do you make of that?
Well, I would expect nothing less from Kerry Lake, and so I don't think she was the Babe Ruth of winning her Arizona gubernatorial race. So she might want to go back to candidate school.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that. Disgraceful. She is disgraceful. Very similar to the way Donald Trump handled losing the 2020 election. Kerry Lake is a mini Donald Trump as far as I'm concerned. All right, give me your predictions. Give me this, Daniel. Who do you think tonight has a surprisingly good night and helps him or herself? And who do you think has a really disappointing night tonight?
Predictions are always tough for journalists, but I would say Ramaswamy has a pretty good night, and I would say DeSantis continues to not live up to his expectations.
Yeah.
He's not generally the best debater in the past, and also remember this is a guy who couldn't nail his own announcement, and there was glitches galore on Twitter.
That's
or
true.
X, now X.
Yeah.
And so, that's if you miss if you kind of have your layup, first impression, you never get a second chance, all that, then it wouldn't be that surprising if he seems too pugnacious or doesn't seem like he can change the tide.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think Ramaswamy, he seems like he doesn't get flustered under pressure. I'll give him credit for that. He's very well spoken, very articulate, educated, intelligent guy. And even though I disagree with him on a lot of things he says, he seems pretty polished. And I don't think this is Ron DeSantis' platform. I think he's going to choke under pressure, and we'll have to wait and see what happens. Daniel Lippman, you do a great job over there at Politico. Can you please give out the information? How do people read your articles and follow you on social media?
So I'm D. Lippman, DLIPPMAN, on Twitter, and people can subscribe to my articles. If you just search Politico Daniel Lippman on Google, there's a place you can put your email address in.
Daniel, you do a great job. Please keep up the great work. Always appreciate the time, and we'll catch up with you soon. Okay, buddy? Enjoy the debate.
Thank you, you too.
All right, take care. That's Daniel Lippman with Politico, and again, I think that organization does a phenomenal job in covering things fairly in an era where I think you can probably struggle to find media outlets, whether it be TV, newspapers, to find journalists that cover things fairly. I was reading some articles, don't ask me why, in the Review Journal. I tend not to read that newspaper very much because I think it's a lot of trash. But, there's one reporter, calls himself Victor Jocks, I think that his name is. Jokes. Victor Joke. Let's call him Victor Joke. Or Victor smelling Ron DeSantis' jock. We can call him that. This guy, every single day, coddles Ron DeSantis because he's got this fetish for Ron DeSantis. And he puts out these articles. Here's the pathway to Ron DeSantis winning. How can you take a reporter like that seriously? How on earth can you take somebody like that seriously that thinks Ron DeSantis actually has a pathway to win and be the next president of the United States? But they call themselves journalists. The guy we just had on is a journalist. He calls out both sides. He tries to be fair and honest. And you have writers like Victor Jockstrap, or whatever his name is, who coddles to certain candidates and is a right-wing buffoon. I cannot read the articles from some of these people. I just can't. They're so biased, and they're so ridiculous, and they're so extreme in some of their views. And that's why this guy will never come in studio again. He refuses to. But he won't be honest and say, well, I just don't want to debate you. I don't want to be challenged. They won't be honest. He'll say, oh, no, I'm busy. And then he'll go on right-wing echo chamber radio shows every week. Because these people are cowards. That's why. That's what they are. They're cowards. And listen, I can't predict the future. I don't know exactly what's going to happen in the debate tonight. But I tend to agree with Daniel Lippman. I think Vivek Ramaswamy is probably going to have a good night. I think Chris Christie's probably going to have a good night. He's going to be aggressive. He's probably going to be the only person that's going to be aggressive in going after Donald Trump. I think Mike Pence is going to be Mike Pence. He's a stiff. He has no personality. Him and Ron DeSantis have the personalities of a dead ant. I mean, they're just stiffs. I don't think Pence and DeSantis will do very well tonight. I think Nikki Haley will hold her own. She'll do okay. But this isn't going to change anything. That's what we're talking about here, right? Is it going to change people's minds? Is it going to change Republicans? Is it going to change their mind? Are they going to vote for somebody differently? No. If you're a MAGA supporter now, you're going to be a MAGA supporter at the end of the night. Simple as that. Nobody wants to see this, but if Chris Christie decided to take all of his clothes off today on the stage, if you were going to vote for Chris Christie, you're probably still going to vote for Chris Christie. Well, maybe some people wouldn't vote for him if he did that. But battle of the bods. Ron DeSantis and Chris Christie. I'd love to see those two sumo wrestle in white boots, by the way. That'd be very entertaining. But the point I'm trying to make here is this isn't going to change anybody's minds tonight. Ramaswamy probably has a nice political future within the party. I do find this very interesting because I thought it was a really good interview Bill Maher did with him, Vivek Ramaswamy. I thought it was a really good interview he did with him the other day. And this is interesting because a lot of people thought that Ramaswamy would be a good chance Donald Trump's vice president. He said he would not accept that. He does not want to be Donald Trump's vice president. It's either win or go home for him. And I do respect that. But I also found that interesting. You know, you're just getting your start in your political career, and he wants to start right at the top, which I'm not sure is a good way of going about it. But I also think that if he ran as Donald Trump's vice president, that might not be good for his political career either. But again, I agree with what Daniel Lippman said. I think Kari Lake is probably the favorite to be Donald Trump's VP. And I think right behind him would be Scott. I can't see anybody else on the stage that would be Donald Trump's vice president. I can't really see that. But you never know. Donald Trump, some surprises. I mean, here we have a Republican presidential debate today, and then the former president, who is overwhelming favorite to be the Republican nominee, is probably going to be turning himself into authorities tomorrow. He's going to be fingerprinted. He's going to get a mugshot, which I'm sure he will get campaign contributions on, and he will campaign on that mugshot. And my favorite, he's going to be weighed. He's going to be put on a scale. That's going to be fun. Can't wait to see how much Donald Trump weighs. That's going to be a lot of fun. Has the total changed, by the way, the over-under?
I haven't checked, but I was just going to ask you, have you put anything on that?
Not yet. No, not yet. It's last I checked, it was 273.5. What would you take?
Over.
Yeah, so would I. I think he's like 280.
285.
You think he's that heavy? I
Yeah.
mean, maybe. It's possible.
All them damn cheeseburgers.
He does like his fast food. He doesn't exactly eat healthy. Talk about somebody who you'll never see on the front of Fitness magazine. That would be Donald Trump. Have you seen his golf swing? His golf swing looks like Charles Barkley's golf swing. Well, you can't get the flab. You can't get it all out of the way when you swing a golf club. How could you? How could you? When was the last time Donald Trump walked a golf course? That's what I'd like to know. In fact, when was the last time Donald Trump walked like a mile? Yeah, I don't know. That's what I want to see. I want to see like presidential, I don't know, I guess you could say opponents play golf with one another. The match. That's what I want to see. I want to force Donald Trump to play a round of golf with John Daly with both their shirts off. That's what I want to see. And I'm sure many others would want to see that as well. That would be very entertaining. But in all seriousness, yes, Donald Trump will not be on the debate stage tonight. Instead, he'll be a coward like he is. I think, maybe I'm wrong. Allegedly, I heard it was bone spurs why he's not going to be on the debate stage. I don't know if that's true or not. I can't confirm that. I heard allegedly that he was having issues with his bone spurs, and that's why he couldn't travel to Wisconsin. Instead, he decided to sit down in an interview with Tucker Carlson. By the way, don't get me wrong. I'm sure Tucker will really challenge him. Do you guys know Tucker is the guy that said he despised Donald Trump in text messages and emails? This was the guy who said he didn't want to hear from Donald Trump ever again. And he made other disparaging comments about Donald Trump. And now Tucker's going to be... You want to talk about the biggest two-faced clown, the white supremacist sympathizer himself, Tucker Carlson, the two-faced clown. And by the way, everybody has badmouthed Donald Trump behind his back at Fox News. Virtually everybody. Because that's who they are. They're two-faced. They know. Sean Hannity knows that Donald Trump lost the 2020 election. Everybody else at Fox News knows that. But they continued to spew lies and enable people like Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell. They enabled these people. And they gave them platforms. And Newsmax talking about the Dominion voting machines and you want to talk about zero credibility. And I believe the debate tonight is on Fox News, if I'm not mistaken. And we'll have to wait and see what happens. But I really want to get former presidential candidate Joe Walsh's take on this because he's not a big Chris Christie fan. Him and Joe Walsh have gone at it. So I want to get his take on who he is looking forward to seeing tonight, listening to. I want to get his take on anybody on the stage tonight that he could support, anybody on the stage tonight that he could vote for, anybody on the stage tonight that he wants to see flourish, if anybody. Joe Walsh has tons of followers on social media. He's a very opinionated guy. And Joe Walsh will be joining us next, the former presidential candidate and former congressman out of Chicago, to give his thoughts on what he thinks will happen tonight in the first of many Republican presidential debates. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premium Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Hey, Shapiro from Pushing the Limits here. Fantasy football draft is upon us. And in Las Vegas, your number one draft party destination is Sapphire. Don't miss their sexy sports podcaster and Instagram vixen, Lisa Ann, kicking off the fantasy football draft party poolside at Sapphire Day Club, complete with dozens of topless entertainers and cocktail servers, bartenders, free Wi-Fi, and, of course, fantasy draft boards to stake your top picks. Draft poolside or inside Sapphire Las Vegas. Packages are available now online at SapphireLasVegas.com and SapphireDayClub.com. Text or call 702-869-0003 to reserve your draft party today. Again, that number, 702-869-0003, and I'll see you at Sapphire.
Buying or selling a home is a huge life event that requires guidance from an expert in the industry and community. My name is Blake Wynn. You may recognize my name as my grandfather was the best governor the state of Nevada's ever had. Growing up in Las Vegas, I've come to know this community intricately. Now, I am raising a family here as well, so I understand all the issues impacting our home and quality of life. As the top realtor for the #1 real estate team at Keller Williams, you can have confidence in my experience, knowledge, and track record. When it comes to buying, selling, or investing in real estate, choose a name you can trust and someone who understands the community you call home. Call Blake Wynn today and experience the difference of a trusted expert. 702-540-3311.
Everybody, it's Brian Shapiro from Pushing the Limits here. I want to tell you guys about my good friends at the Postal Annex. They have a notary signing agent on site daily, no appointment needed, and they offer a full scale of printing services from shipping labels to documents, business cards, banners, photos, and business signage. They're your passport service headquarters. They offer passport photos, and they can renew your adult passports. If you're traveling in a hurry, they can get those passports to you within 7 days or less. Mailbox rentals with a physical street address, and they also receive your packages from Amazon, UPS, FedEx, USPS, and more. Here's the best part. If you're a Pushing the Limits listener, they have an introductory rate of only $39 for a 3-month service. You can't beat it. Give them a call. 702-873-8005. Check them out at 6130 West Flamingo Road. It's the Postal Annex. Tell them I sent you. Hey, everybody, it's Brian Shapiro from Pushing the Limits. I want to tell you guys about Sahara West Urgent Care and Wellness. They're conveniently located on the southwest corner of Sahara and Jones. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. At Sahara West Urgent Care, they'll take care of all your healthcare needs. They offer routine services such as physicals, STD testing, car accident treatment, and work injuries. You name it, they do it. They have on-site x-ray, EKG, ultrasound, and labs. They treat chronic conditions such as asthma, blood pressure, diabetes, and more. They also offer general wellness exams, treatments such as testosterone enhancement and cancer screening. They're located on Sahara, 6125 West Sahara Avenue. Their number is 702-248-0554. And the best part, they accept most major insurances and affordable cash pay prices, office visits starting at just $95. And I'm also a client, so please give them a call, 702-248-0554.
The Upperman Report, weeknights at 9 on KSHP North Las Vegas, AM and FM, 829-68B North Las Vegas, and KSHP.com.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits. My thanks to Daniel Lippman from Politico joining us. Republican debate tonight that I will be watching. If it wasn't my job, I'll be honest with you, I probably wouldn't watch it tonight. Probably wouldn't, but I do need to talk about it. Part of my job. What to expect, what not to expect, who will be the winners and losers tonight. Although I would say the majority of them will be losers regardless, but that's another story. What better person to join us? You know, I hear people every day say, man, I love it when you have that guy Joe Walsh on the show. I love it when you have him on. When's the next time you're having him on? Well, Joe Walsh, former presidential candidate and former Chicago congressman, joins us right now on the line to kind of preview what to expect tonight in this Republican debate out of Wisconsin. Joe, always a pleasure having you on, my friend. Thanks for the time as always. How are you?
Hey, Brian, your audience loves to have me on because I'm always a nanosecond away from dropping an F-bomb, and they want to hear that.
That is true. You do that on social media a lot, which I enjoy, by the way. How do you stop yourself, like when you're on Anderson Cooper, CNN? Because you're a guy that does swear from time to time. You got to be careful on CNN.
Well, it is very, very difficult, and I've lost my you-know-what a couple times. But in your biz, Brian, I remember back when I was on the radio, I'd let it rip. I mean, I thank God for the dump button.
Yeah, there's always that 5 or 6 second delay. Just ask Howard Stern about that. All right, Joe, you're before I get to the debate tonight, the news that broke about 2 people in Russia. Well, 10 people died in this plane crash, but certainly at least 2 that challenged Vladimir Putin. I'm not shedding a tear for these people, for obvious reasons. But what do you make of this story that came out today?
Same as you. No surprise. No tears for the killer and thug who was killed. No tears for him. And let's hope Putin gets his sometime soon. And to Tucker Carlson and Tulsi Gabbard and Donald Trump and Marjorie and all the rest, all the other pro-Putin Republicans in this country, this is evil. This is what you support.
What do you make of Vivek Ramaswamy and even others who have said, hey, to end the war, I would give Vladimir Putin parts of Ukraine? I laugh at that because it's so absurd. You're basically saying, let's let Vladimir Putin win for invading another country. What do you make of some of these people that are going to be on the debate stage tonight? And I would hope they'd be asked about that.
Well, 2 groups of people. This Vivek Ramaswamy is just a total opportunist and grifter who is just giving the Republican voters something that he thinks they want to hear. So he's not informed enough. Do I think he really believes that? No. But the more serious point is, again, to the Tucker Carlsons and a lot of elected Republicans right now in the party, there is a pro-authoritarian, it's no longer a wing. There's a pro-authoritarian movement in the party, and that pro-authoritarian movement is attracted to an authoritarian like Putin.
Yeah, I agree. So I gave my kind of brief rundown of what I expect in this debate tonight. I want to share it with you, and I want you to tell me whether you agree or not. They're going to blame Joe Biden for everything. They're going to talk about the border crisis as if it didn't exist before Biden, and they'll probably talk about drag queens and gender ideology and indoctrinating kids and banning books and critical race theory. They'll blame Joe Biden, I would imagine, for inflation and gas prices, not just in this country, but throughout the world. But more importantly, I don't think we're going to hear any real solutions for any of these Republicans that are on stage. And I think most of them will be brown-nosing Donald Trump in fear of losing the base and defend Donald Trump, even say that they'll pardon Donald Trump if they're president. I mean, and of course, they'll probably talk about Hunter Biden. To me, that's what I think is going to happen tonight. Do you agree or disagree?
Agree. Can I go now?
Yes.
No, Brian, you're right. I agree with everything you just said. I really do. Though I'd add one twist.
Yes.
Trump's going to dominate the debate. The subject of Trump and his legal battles are going to dominate the debate. I think there's going to be an unusually large number of Trump-related questions to these candidates. So I actually think that's going to play a much more central role in this debate than any kind of hits on Biden and the rest.
What do you make of some? I agree with you. What do you make of some of the candidates that have said, and most of them, that they would pardon Donald Trump if they become president, which they won't, but just the fact that they would even say that. What do you make of that?
Makes perfect sense if you want to stay a viable Republican. You and I have talked about this forever. If a Republican today does what I did, does what Liz Cheney did or Adam Kinzinger, and stands up publicly against Donald Trump, you are done as a Republican. So if you want to keep your little name and your power and be viable as a Republican, you've got to embrace the guy and defend the guy and bow to the guy, because it's his party.
Yeah.
And he owns most of the base. It's not right, Brian, it's not right. All of them privately, and I know many of them, all of them privately, every one of the 8 people on stage tonight believes Trump is unfit to be president. They all effing believe that. None of them will say that. I don't even think Christie will say that.
Yeah.
Because they know what the truth is. It's Trump's party.
Really sad. If you're just joining us, former presidential candidate Joe Walsh, who, by the way, did support Donald Trump years back, 2016. He has certainly switched his tone, and others have as well, but not enough. Not enough people, in my personal opinion. All right, so Joe, let's talk a little bit about that, specifically about the debate tonight and predictions. Let me ask you this first: who do you think this night is most important to? Could win or lose the most support? Who would that be?
So my overall context is. And I was I'm still a big Seinfeld guy, a show about nothing. To me, this debate is really kind of inconsequential and about nothing, because I think the most important guy there is the guy who's not there, and that's Donald Trump. Right. I think these are all, I think the nomination is his. I think this is all silly. Having said all of that, DeSantis, who I know, is cratering. If he can't turn it around tonight, I wouldn't be surprised to see him out of this race soon.
Wow.
So I think he's got the most at stake. Christie and Asa Hutchinson don't matter. They're anti-Trump. They know they can't win. They have no constituency in the party. So I think look to DeSantis, because if he falters, then it's Scott, Haley, or Pence, and forget about this Vivek. Again, he's about 15 years old, and he's an opportunist and a grifter. If DeSantis falters, then Pence, Haley, or Scott will make a move.
Okay, with that being said, though, let me ask you this. Do you think there's anybody on that debate stage that Donald Trump most likely would pick as his VP? And who would that be?
I think the only maybe Nikki Haley, maybe Tim Scott. Only those two. Mm-hmm. I think Trump would pick a woman. I think Tim Scott, who I know well, I think is running to become vice president. So I think one of those two would have a shot.
I wanted to ask you this. We talk a lot about conspiracy theories and calling out people for putting out misinformation. You saw, I would imagine, Joe, this Biden video that came out where he puts his head down in Maui for maybe 5 to 10 seconds. He's not sleeping. We all saw that. It's a moment where maybe he's praying or he closes his eyes for a few seconds and thinking about all those that have lost their lives. It is absolutely clear that he didn't fall asleep, that he was, it was a very emotional time there and an emotional moment. Yet conservative pundits like the Sean Hannitys and the Charlie Kirks and many others say, look at Joe Biden. He doesn't care about the people in Maui. He's falling asleep. What do you make of this? I mean, this seems to be the norm in the extreme right, putting out misinformation.
I've said it before, I'll say it again. Donald Trump's greatest legacy is the destruction of truth. Because now you have most of my former political party no longer deals in the world of truth. So Hannity, Tucker, everybody else echoes it. It's terrible, but the base believes all of it. Brian, can I rag on Biden for 1 minute, though?
Go ahead. Be my guest.
And you go ahead. You go ahead and disagree with me if you want.
Okay.
It's always bugged me that Joe Biden has always brings up his son Beau whenever he's talking to Gold Star families and all the rest. And oftentimes President Biden will exaggerate and not be accurate about how his son Beau died. But the other thing that bugs me was there was President Biden talking to the families in Maui, and he brings up something like he said, I can kind of relate because a few years ago or 8 years ago, we had a kitchen fire in the house and blah, blah, blah. And, it almost ruined my Corvette. And the only point I'm making is I wish he wouldn't say stuff like that. I wish there was an aide or his wife who would say, quit trying to say that you've gone through something similar. Over 1,000 people are still missing in Maui, and the president stands in front of them and says, I kind of know how you feel because we had a kitchen fire a few years ago.
Okay, so
and it's not Biden's fault.
Yeah.
But some advisors should say, Mr. President, don't do stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay, so
I'm done. My rant is
No.
over.
Listen, I think it's fair what you said. I agree with some of what you said, and I disagree. Let me start with where we agree. Couldn't agree with you more. When you have over 1,000 people or 800 people that are still missing, their bodies never going to be found in a catastrophic fire, it is extremely stupid, and I would call it bad judgment to talk about a kitchen fire. That's absurd.
Yeah.
It made him look really bad. I couldn't agree with you more. I don't think he did it on purpose. The man is in his early 80s. I'm not trying to make excuses for him.
Agreed.
But I
agree.
don't think he would have done that 10 years ago. Mistake. He shouldn't have done it. Agree with you. Now let's talk about...
You, by the way, you and I agree. The problem is, doggone it, an aide or his wife has got to tell him, don't do that.
It's possible somebody did. It's possible somebody afterwards said, hey, you really probably shouldn't have done that. I think Joe Biden certainly has an ego. Maybe he would brush that aside. I don't know. When you've been in office as long as he's been in office for, I think you conduct yourself with a little bit of an ego. I don't think he did it to hurt people, unlike Donald Trump. I don't think Joe Biden did it because he wanted to make it about himself. I just think it was really bad judgment. And you're right.
And I only bring stuff. I bring stuff like that up against Biden because I don't want him to lose in 2024.
I understand. I understand what you're saying, and we agree on that. Now let's talk about Beau Biden. I think here's where I disagree with you a little bit. And I understand why you bring this up, because he does talk about Beau a lot. However, when you're talking about loss of life, doesn't matter whether somebody died in a car accident, in my opinion, or in a fire, or or from cancer. We all grieve, right? And no father, I think you agree with me, Joe, no father should ever have to bury their son or daughter, right? And Joe Biden's been through it not just with his son, Beau, but with his late daughter and his first wife in a car accident. And I do think that resonates with people. Listen, if you don't like Joe Biden, you're going to criticize him for anything. And I'm not saying you're doing that, but I don't have as much of a problem with him talking about loss and talking about the pain that he still carries with the loss of Beau, who was a hero to this nation and died of cancer. I don't necessarily have a problem with that, bringing it up and saying, listen, you all are suffering. I suffered. I'm with you. I don't necessarily have a problem with that.
Yeah, Brian, I agree with all of that. What Biden has done more than a few times is call himself a Gold Star family and said that Beau died on the battlefield in Iraq. Right. And again, it may just be his age and he's confused and he's whatever, but you cannot say stuff like that.
I agree, because that's not factually accurate. I'm curious, though, besides that, because we've never really talked, before I let you go, like, what is your biggest criticism policy-wise of Joe Biden? As someone who's been a Republican for almost his entire life, right? And I'm talking about you, what is your biggest, because I would imagine, hopefully they'll be asked this question tonight. If you were on the debate stage tonight and someone said, hey, Joe Walsh, what is your biggest policy disagreement when it comes to the Biden administration, Joe? What would that be?
Well, interestingly enough, Brian, very little. When it comes to foreign policy, I'm a huge fan. Getting us out of Afghanistan, huge fan. The way he's led the world against Russia, huge fan. In a basic infrastructure bill passed, long overdue, big fan. I'd get down into the weeds and I'd say there's a bunch of other domestic spending that we didn't need to get into. But overall, a conservative like me just on his policy, would give him a pretty okay grade.
That's saying something. That's saying something. All right, last question, Joe. Who do you think, even though I agree with what you said about the debate in general, it probably doesn't mean much at all. Donald Trump's going to be the Republican nominee. We know that. But, it could help certain people in the future with their political careers. I'm pretty sure you'd agree with me on that. Who do you think is going to be the biggest winner and the biggest loser tonight when it's all said and done?
I think Tim Scott is going to be a winner. I think he's going to come across well. I think people will like what they hear from him tonight. And I guess my biggest loser just on the debate stage, I know DeSantis, and he doesn't come across well, and I don't think he'll look good tonight.
I tend to agree with you, my friend. Joe Walsh, it is always a pleasure. Please check out his podcast, White Flag. Who do you got? Are you going to be doing anything post-debate today? Are you going to be on any of the networks tonight?
Yes, I'll be doing TV tonight, and I'll probably put out a solo episode of my podcast tomorrow.
Love it.
Just talking about the debate.
Can't wait to listen to it, Joe. You're always one of my favorites. Always appreciate it when you're so generous with your time on the show.
You're the best, Brian.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, man.
Have a good one. Take care. That's Joe Walsh, former presidential candidate. He's been on the debate stage plenty of times. He knows what it takes. He's also a former congressman out of Chicago, and it's always nice having him on the show before CNN gets him. So I appreciate that. Joe Walsh, always one of my favorite guests. Listen, he makes a really good point about Joe Biden, right? And we all know Joe Biden is not any spring chicken. And he said some stupid things. You can't compare a kitchen fire to over 1,000 people, I would assume, even though it's not confirmed, over 1,000 people losing their lives in Maui. Really dumb. I don't believe, and maybe I shouldn't say dumb, bad judgment. And I'm not trying to make excuses for Joe Biden because I'm calling it out, and Joe Walsh is 150% correct. Really bad. That would be like talking to a family that lost several people in a car accident and saying, I know what it's like to be in a car accident. I was in a fender bender 3 years ago. Or, I know what it's like to be in a car accident. Geez, I broke my wrist in a car accident. You know what I mean? You'd say, well, Mr. President, there's no comparison. I haven't opened up the phone lines yet. We got a few minutes here. If you'd like to be a part of the show, you're more than welcome to join me at 702-221-7283. And again, that number, if you'd like to be a part of the conversation, now would be the time to do so at 702-221-7283. We had Daniel Lippman on from Politico, kind of giving us a preview of what to expect tonight on the debate stage, and the always honest and outspoken former presidential candidate Joe Walsh just joined us. And they both seem to echo that the vice president would most likely be on the debate stage tonight, Nikki Haley or Tim Scott. And I actually tend to agree with that. I think that's actually fair. What do you expect tonight? What do you want to see tonight? Is there anybody that can sway your mind differently and maybe sway your vote if you're a Republican? Is there anybody on that debate stage that you're looking forward tonight to seeing how they perform? I certainly want to hear from you. And again, that number is 702-221-7283. And again, that number, if you'd like to be a part of the conversation, we certainly want to hear from you, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. I want to know what you expect tonight, and if anybody can maybe sway you one way or the other. Again, that number, if you want to be a part of the conversation, that number is 702-221-SAVE, 702-221-7283. 83 would be the number to call if you would like to be a part of the conversation. All right. Who do we have on the line? I believe Victor is on the line. Victor, hello. Welcome to Pushing the Limits.
Mr. Ramaswamy.
Okay. It sounds like somebody has a fetish for Mr. Ramaswamy. That's what that call sounded like to me. I would love to know why he likes Mr. Ramaswamy so well. I would love to know that. But it sounded to me like that was somebody that has maybe a fetish for Mr. Ramaswamy. Hey, I get it. He's a good-looking guy, sir. I understand that. Ramaswamy is a very, very good-looking man, so I can understand why you would Pleasure yourself to him. That's what that call sounded like. Anyway, is that true, Justin? Am I going with that call correctly? Is that what that sounded like? I don't know. How do I take that phone call?
That you're just trolling idiot friend, or not friend, but trolling idiot that likes to just...
Doesn't sound like somebody that would be my friend.
Yeah, I know.
It doesn't sound like a friend. Maybe a friend of Mr. Ramaswamy, but certainly not a friend of mine. Number to call again, 702-221-7283, 702-221-7283 if you want to be a part of the show. We're talking about and previewing the presidential Republican debate that will be taking place tonight in Wisconsin. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it starts 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. It's scheduled to go, I believe, for somewhere between 90 to 120 minutes. We'll see how long they are. Sometimes these things last a little bit longer than you would expect. So we'll have to wait and see how long this debate lasts, who are our winners, who are our losers. Again, I really don't think it's going to have any real impact on the presidential election. That's just my personal opinion. Number to call, 702-221-7283. Let's now go to Carl. Carl is next on Pushing the Limits. Hello, Carl.
Hey, hi, Brian. How you doing?
Good.
Good. Listen, I think tonight that debate, I'm going to watch it for laughs, but I heard from somebody I know. My dad was in the entertainment business. He was the head of a large major studio at one time. And I heard somebody in that line saying that the show was going to win the Emmy Award for the best comedy show of the year.
Well,
what do you think?
That could be true. I'm sure all the late night talk shows, Carl, will be having fun with this debate tonight, because I'm sure some of them are going to be making a fool of themselves. But if you asked me, the only parts of the debate tonight that I'm actually really looking forward to be honest with you, is Chris Christie. I'm hoping that he trashes Donald Trump because he has nothing to lose, and I think he will. He can be somewhat entertaining. Yeah,
he will trash Trump. I mean, all you have to do is tell the truth about Trump, and you've trashed him. It's very simple.
Well, that is very true. That is very true. With that being said, are you going to be watching the debate at all, or no?
Yeah, I'll take a look at it for laughs. I've been a little down today, so I need some laughs to pick me up. So I think it'll be pretty funny. But I'm going to watch that and listen to some of the mentally deficient people try to put their points across. So I think it's going to be fun.
It is true, though, what Joe Walsh said. It is very true that in the grand scheme of things, this debate really means nothing, at least as far as the 2024 presidential election is concerned. I completely agree with Joe Walsh. I don't think this is going to mean anything.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
Of course it doesn't mean anything. The people who have already been brainwashed to vote for Trump are going to do it anyway.
Right.
No matter what happens.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter at all.
I tend to agree with you, and
well, as I said before, they haven't been brainwashed. They've been brain rinsed. You have to have something large enough to wash. So
that is true. That is true. Okay. But if you go on Fox News or OAN or Newsmax tonight, oh, what a great performance by Ron DeSantis. Oh, I think he's a rising star. What the way he said Joe Biden is in the bunker. I mean, it was so impressive. And then they'll be wearing the knee pads. Sean Hannity will be wearing the knee pads tonight. Oh my God! I am so impressed with Nikki Haley. Oh, the way she went after critical race theory, it was incredible. Oh, she's a rising star. Oh my goodness! Yeah. That's what they're going to do. The bunch of morons that are going to be political commentators.
Whether they believe it or not, they're doing all that just to keep their jobs. Yeah. You know that as well as I do.
Let me say, it's incredible to me. I mean, the way Ron DeSantis called Joe Biden Sleepy Joe. I mean, the guy deserves an award for that. I mean, it's really going to be comical because I don't think any of these candidates, including Chris Christie, by the way, will have any real solutions to the problems facing this country, because that's really what Americans want to hear, right? You're always going to have the biased people on the far right that really don't want to hear about solutions. But I think the majority of middle America, they want to hear actual real solutions. What can you do for me? What are you going to do for the country? How are you going to end gun violence or lower gun violence? And what are you going to do about health care? You complain about Obamacare. Where's your replacement plan? What are you going to do to help me? Are you going to raise minimum wage? Are you going to lower my taxes? What are you going to do? That's what most moderate people in this country care about. And I guarantee you the sad part about the debate tonight is none of the candidates are going to be talking about that stuff. None. They're just going to attack Joe Biden and talk about transgenders and critical race theory and Hunter Biden's laptop.
Yeah. No, that'll be about it. I mean, that's all they can talk about, you know.
Yeah. I agree.
Anyway.
Thank you, Carl.
Okay, you take care.
Good to hear from you. Thank you. 702-221-7283. And again, the number if you want to be a part of the conversation, 702-221-7283. So listen, tomorrow on the show, we are going to have the former Republican chair, Amy Tarkanian, join us, right? And Amy's going to give us her reaction. And again, she is not a Trumper. And she is not very happy with the Republican Party these days. So I know she's going to be honest. And I like honest people. And she's going to be honest with us, and we will have all the coverage of it. Paul McKeskey's scheduled to join us tomorrow as well on the show. And I want to tell you guys, Paul's doing well. He had knee surgery, and he's recovering quite well. So we probably won't have him in studio tomorrow, but he will be joining us virtually. All right, so this is an interesting guest we have coming up in studio next. You know, sometimes people don't set boundaries. It could be friendships. It could be marriages. It could be relationships. Sometimes you might see somebody too often. Sometimes they're driving you crazy. You know, it's about setting boundaries. Well, the lady coming up next, her name is Cheryl Green. Her book, You Had Me at No, How Setting Boundaries Can Help You Banish Burnout, Repair Relationships, and Save Your Sanity. I can't wait to hear about this because there's so many relationships out there where you're a burden on somebody. You want to talk to them 8 times a day. It's called burnout. So how do we set boundaries? And I think this is fascinating. So she's going to be joining us next. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Greenview Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Hey, Shapiro from Pushing the Limits here. Fantasy football draft is upon us. And in Las Vegas, your number one draft party destination is Sapphire. Don't miss their sexy sports podcaster and Instagram vixen, Lisa Ann, kicking off the fantasy football draft party poolside at Sapphire Day Club, complete with dozens of topless entertainers and cocktail servers, bartenders, free Wi-Fi, and, of course, fantasy draft boards to stake your top picks. Draft poolside or inside Sapphire Las Vegas. Packages are available now online at SapphireLasVegas.com and SapphireDayClub.com. Text or call 702-869-0003 to reserve your draft party today. Again, that number, 702-869-0003. And I'll see you at Sapphire.
Buying or selling a home is a huge life event that requires guidance from an expert in the industry and community. My name is Blake Wynn. You may recognize my name as my grandfather was the best governor the state of Nevada has ever had. Growing up in Las Vegas, I've come to know this community intricately. Now, I am raising a family here as well. So I understand all the issues impacting our home and quality of life. As the top realtor for the #1 real estate team at Keller Williams, you can have confidence in my experience, knowledge, and track record. When it comes to buying, selling, or investing in real estate, choose a name you can trust and someone who understands the community you call home. Call Blake Wynn today and experience the difference of a trusted expert. 702-540-3311.
Hey everybody, Brian Shapiro from Pushing the Limits here. I want to tell you guys about my good friends at the Postal Annex. They have a notary signing agent on site daily, no appointment needed, and they offer a full scale of printing services From shipping labels to documents, business cards, banners, photos, and business signage, they're your passport service headquarters. They offer passport photos, and they can renew your adult passports. If you're traveling in a hurry, they can get those passports to you within 7 days or less. Mailbox rentals with a physical street address, and they also receive your packages from Amazon, UPS, FedEx, USPS, and more. Here's the best part. If you're a Pushing the Limits listener, they have an introductory rate of only $39 for a 3-month service. You can't beat it. Give them a call, 702-873-8005. Check them out at 6130 West Flamingo Road. It's the Postal Annex. Tell them I sent you. Hey, everybody, it's Brian Shapiro from Pushing the Limits. I want to tell you guys about Sahara West Urgent Care and Wellness. They're conveniently located on the southwest corner of Sahara and Jones. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. At Sahara West Urgent Care, they'll take care of all your healthcare needs. They offer routine services such as physicals, STD testing, car accident treatment, and work injuries. You name it, they do it. They have on-site X-ray, EKG, ultrasound, and labs. They treat chronic conditions such as asthma, blood pressure, diabetes, and more. They also offer general wellness exams and treatments such as testosterone enhancement and cancer screening. They're located on Sahara, 6125 West Sahara Avenue. Their number is 702-248-0554. And the best part, they accept most major insurances and affordable cash pay prices, office visits starting at just $95. And I'm also a client, so please give them a call, 702-248-0554.
Hungry for the best barbecue in Las Vegas? Come out to the infamous barbecue and meat market, John Mole's Meats and Roadkill Grill in Las Vegas. John Mole's was featured on the Food Network's Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. Now take home delicious meat selections for your grill, and while you're there, grab a bite of the best barbecue in Las Vegas. With 2 locations now at Tom and Gowan or on North Decatur, you're sure to find the perfect meats for your next barbecue or party. Find us online at johnmolemeat.com.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to tell you guys about my good friend Blake Wynn with Keller Williams Group. If you're thinking of buying or selling a home, he's the guy to call. He's lived in Vegas his whole life. His grandfather, the late great Governor Henny Gwynn. Give Blake a call for a lot of reasons, not just if you're thinking of buying or selling a home, but Blake is holding a charity poker tournament, which I will be a part of on September 28th. It's a Thursday. It's going to be at Arizona Charlie's on Decatur. And the great news is, you know, $100 buy-in, and proceeds are going to Las Vegas Red Shoe Society and the Ronald McDonald Fund. So if you want to be a part of that, if you want to sponsor the event or just want more information, or if you're thinking of buying or selling a home, please give Blake Wynn a call. I'm going to give out his number now, 702. Of course it's 702. He's born and raised here. 702-540-3311. Again, that number. Please give Blake Wynn a call from Keller Williams Group. 702-540-3311. Blake doing just wonderful things for the community, and this is no exception to that. Give him a call. Tell him I sent you. Okay. So I notice in not just relationships, marriages, even simple friendships, or even professional relationships, it seems like people don't understand what the word boundary means. And I feel like especially in relationships, people get obsessive. They call too much. They want to talk to somebody too much, and that can push a lot of people away. I've probably done that, and I've gotten that also. So I've had it on both sides. And the lady we have this in studio, she's an author. Her name is Cheryl Green. Her book, You Had Me at No, How Setting Boundaries Helps You Banish Burnout, Repair Relationships, and Save Your Family. Here's the book cover right here, and Cheryl joins us in studio. Cheryl, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. This is
I
awesome.
appreciate it. Okay, so do you agree with what I just said? Like it all forms of relationships, you know, people just don't understand what boundaries are and how to apply them in life, right?
Absolutely. I don't think most of the population understands really what boundaries are or why they're so important. And I think that's one of the biggest causes of stress in our world.
I agree. Let's start with just basic relationships. You start dating somebody. I'm going to start from a man's perspective because I think men are at times more even obsessive in relationships than women can be. And, you know, let's just say you're a dude and you start dating this girl and you've only been dating her like a month and things are going good, but you need to talk to her every day, in the morning, at night, you text her all the time, and you obsess about not getting a text back right away. I feel like that is a turnoff to people on the other side. Talk a little bit about that.
I think it depends who it is. If everything is going great in the relationship and the woman or the other person is okay with the frequency and duration and all of that, then sure, why not? That's the thing about boundaries is they're different for every single person.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are okay with that, fantastic. If you're not okay with that, it's all about communicating. Hey, we're talking too much. Hey, you're not going to get a text from me while I'm in the middle of work or yoga or whatever it is. It's just talking about it and what is okay for that relationship.
All right, let me give you a personal example. I had started dating somebody, and I'm not really a morning person. And when it is the morning and I'm going to work, I'm just thinking about the radio show. I don't like talking to anybody. I like just focusing on what I need to do and get the show over with and then worry about that stuff. So I was with someone, and how come you don't text me good morning? How come you don't do this? And I told her, I said, and it just is what I just said. I said, listen, it's not personal. It doesn't matter who you are. I just don't like talking, unless it's an emergency. I don't like talking to people and doing pleasantries when I wake up and before I do the radio show. And this was actually when I woke up even earlier, and my show was even earlier. And she didn't take kindly to that. So what advice would you give to people in that situation?
That it's always okay to cut ties.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, not everybody's going to respect our boundaries. You're going to set one, you're going to communicate one, and people don't have to follow it, but you also don't have to keep them in your life. And I call those boundary busters.
Did you feel like you had a lot of boundary busters in your life, and that's one of the reasons why you wrote this book? I guess that's my question. Why did you write this book?
I wrote this because I had terribly unhealthy boundaries, and I'm going to take the responsibility on myself, because I think that's something we like to push the responsibility to somebody else. We're the victims here, but we're not. If we don't have our boundaries, if we don't communicate them, then how do we expect people to respect them?
Right. That makes sense to me. Do you feel like this is one of the biggest issues? There's a lot of different issues of why marriages don't work out, and divorce rates are, I think, higher than ever right now. Do you think this is one of those main issues on that checklist, is that people just don't know how to set boundaries?
I think it's up there. I think that lack of communication is an absolute killer for any relationship, whether it's romantic or professional.
Yeah. What do you think is the biggest boundary, I guess you could say, mistake that people make? It could be friendship, it could be relationship, marriage, whatever the case may be. What do you think is the biggest no mistake that people make in general?
I would say the biggest one is assuming.
Mm-hmm.
Assuming that that the other person knows what is acceptable for you, what's an okay way to treat you. And just in the relationship category, I used an example years ago. I was dating a guy who thought that it was completely okay to have other women sitting on his lap in a bar.
What?
And in some relationships, that may be completely okay.
Yeah, wow. I don't think most relationships that would be okay.
I'm not judging. If it's good for you, fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But I did communicate eventually that was not okay, and he was a boundary buster, and that is why I'm not with him.
Boundary buster, meaning he wasn't willing to change his ways at all for you.
Yes.
And then you said, okay, well, that's it then.
Yeah.
We can't be together. And wow, that's interesting. I feel like if you really care about somebody and you love somebody, then you're going to respect those boundaries, right?
That's the hope.
You would think so.
That is the hope, yes.
Why do you think divorce rates are so high these days? I know that's not necessarily what you talk about in this book, but but why do you think that they're at an all-time high right now?
It's a great question. I was divorced many years ago. I would hope that's not the main reason for most people's, but I would say really lack of communication, whether it's around boundaries or anything else, not being open, not being honest, not working through issues. Because look, we're all complicated human beings, and most of us are a pain in the butt. But you just have to find that right pain in the butt, and then be able to work together to come to a compromise and communicate properly.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about friendships.
Yeah.
We have all different types of friends. I have a lot of acquaintances in Las Vegas, but I have a small core of people that I really trust, that I can count on. But regardless, what would you say about friendships in this book? You talk a lot about just friendship and basic boundaries with friends. What do you hear about the most about mistakes that people make with just basic friendships when it comes to boundaries and stuff?
I think a lot of us are afraid to let people down. We're afraid to say no. We're afraid to not be there for someone in every possible situation. And while, yes, you need to be there for your friends, you need to support them, sometimes you just don't have it in you. You don't have those resources. You don't have the time or the emotional or the mental bandwidth
Right.
to deal with their issues, to take on their, their emotions. And we do it anyway. And it leads to resentment because
Yeah.
then we're angry.
Let's talk about that, because just in basic, I think everyone in their life at one point or another had a situation like this where you're friends with someone of the opposite sex.
Mm-hmm.
You feel like they're attracted to you and they have feelings for you, but you don't feel the same way for them. You're afraid to tell them how you feel because you don't want to lose them as a friend.
Yeah.
I know this has happened to me in my life, and the other way too.
Yeah.
I'm sure. What do you do in a situation like that? What is that boundary? And are you just honest with them, or like, how do you handle a situation like that?
I can tell you what not to do because that has been my entire life. A whole bunch of like, I'm interested in you. I'll just stick around as a friend, but not really. I'm still gonna try. And I ended up dating a whole lot of people that I shouldn't have for that very reason. So I think clearly communicating, like, look, if you're in this for something more than friends, and then kind of paying attention, listening to their responses, listening to their body language. And again, it's okay to let people go from your life if they're not willing to accept the relationship as you are willing to give it, then that's it.
Have you ever been in a situation where it just turned into borderline harassment, where there's just constant phone calls and text messages and you had to block somebody?
I'm trying to think about that. I don't think it's ever gotten to that point, but then again,
I've definitely had situations like that.
Were you the
What are you
stalker
doing that?
or the other
No,
one?
I'm not a
Okay.
stalker person. Like, I'm not like that. My whole thing has always been in my life, if somebody doesn't want to care about me,
Yeah.
if somebody is not putting in the effort at all, then why do I want to hang out with that person? I'm not 15 years old. I'm not going to play games with people. Why should I have to put in all this work? Or at a very minimum, I'm going to tell the person that, hey, you know what, man, you're not worth it anymore.
Yeah.
I'm putting in all this work. You're not responding. You're not. Take it easy. Have a good one. Wish you the best. I do feel like sometimes men take it harder than women, though. They get more jealous, and it's a misconception. I think men are worse when it comes to relationships and jealousy and controlling.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah,
Not always.
yeah. I by the way, if you're just joining us, her name is Cheryl Green. Her book is out. You Had Me at No: How Setting Boundaries Helps You Banish Burnout, Repair Relationships, and Save Your Sanity. On a side note to this, though, have you come across relationships with people where they read your book and I would imagine they did set some healthy boundaries and it recuperated their relationship and it made it stronger?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think boundaries are something that's a muscle. You can learn how to do it and then you can practice it. And yeah, there are some things in life that you can't get past, but I think for the most part, when you do say, hey, you know what, I'm working on this. Sorry if I put you in an uncomfortable position in the past. And now, now we can make amends. We can have a better relationship going forward.
What do you do in a situation where I would think most relationships there needs to be give and take? Sometimes you're going to do things that maybe you don't necessarily enjoy. Like I've been with people and they wanted to go camping with me. I absolutely hate camping, but I've done it. But then at the same time, what if you say to yourself, hey, you know what? I want a night out with the boys. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to cheat on you. I hope you know that. You trust me. However, if they want to go to a strip club, I'm going to go to a strip club with them, or, whatever the case may be. And then your wife says, no, that's my boundary. I'm not going to let you do that. Well, wait a second. I just went camping with you. I just did things that were out of my comfort zone. I'm asking you to allow me to do something that might be out of your comfort zone. And she doesn't let you do it. How do you deal with that type of situation?
So I'm going to throw something in here because for a lot of people, camping and going to a strip club, not on equal footing.
True.
If it's camping or like I go to a concert with you, now we can discuss that.
That is true because that's sexual. And that is true. And that might be unfair. Maybe that was a bad example. But you're right. But let's just say the woman went to a Chippendale show with her.
Yeah.
Let me make it equal.
Thank
Let's
you.
put it at an equal playing field because you're right. Those are two very different things. Your wife wants the night out with the girls. She wants to go to a Chippendale show. Husband says, no problem, honey, have a great time. I don't care if a guy sits on your lap. I want you to have a good time. I know you would never cheat on me, which is a very secure thing to do in a healthy relationship. And I don't see anything wrong with that. But on the other side of things, she doesn't want him going to a strip club.
Yeah.
He's not going to have sex with a woman. He's not going to make out with a woman. Worst case scenario, maybe have a lap dance. What do you make of that?
Without having any other knowledge of the relationship, and it's hard to say. It goes down to trust, and it goes down to communication. Maybe something's happened in the past. Maybe she's got something from her past that has nothing to do with this relationship, but she's been burned before, she's been traumatized before, or vice versa if it's the other situation. So it really comes down to just that couple talking through it. And look, if you're not okay being with somebody who will not let you go to a strip club, that's your boundary. It doesn't mean everybody's going to accept it. But it's I don't really know how to answer that question without having like a lot more information and not making random people break up over this radio interview.
Understood. No, I understand that. But, I met someone a while back and she had told me how scared she was about meeting someone in this town. I said, why? And she talked about her past relationship. She was married for a month, and that fell to pieces. And then her last relationship, her boyfriend was abusive. And I'm very sympathetic to that. But at the same time, I'm thinking to myself, okay, that's not me.
Right.
That's not who I am. I don't treat people like that. And it turned out that, going out with that person, it affected my relationship with her because of her past. How do you deal with that?
I think if they're worth it, I think you work through it, whether it's therapy or just talking through it, or just time and patience. We all have our emotional baggage. We are all coming with, especially as you get older and you're dating as an adult, you're just bringing along a whole load of garbage. And is the other person worth sorting through that garbage and helping them get over it? Or is it something that you don't have the emotional or mental bandwidth for, or you're just not that interested in them and you're willing to say, you know what, I don't want to deal with it. It's just not worth it.
Do you feel like, obviously to an extent, I believe that therapy does work, but I also feel like it's hit or miss, and there are some therapists that don't help at all. Do you feel like, for the most part, you recommend couples go to therapy for the problems that they're facing?
I think couples should go to therapy before they start facing problems. Having a third party that can teach you how to communicate, how to argue responsibly, how to get past those challenges that are going to pop up in your relationship. And they are going to pop up. It doesn't matter how old, where you're from, doesn't matter. Again, we're complex creatures. We're coming together and we have to figure out a way to make it work.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree with you. So for people that have never read this book before, and first of all, tell people how you get your hands on this book, how can you purchase it, but and just as important, what's in the book. We've talked the basics about what's in there, but go into detail, the things that you talk about in this book when it comes to setting boundaries, and how do people find this book?
So this book, my desire was to not only teach people to set boundaries, but to give them permission. There's this saying out there, no is a complete sentence. And yeah, it is. But if you don't believe that you actually have the right to say no, if you've been brought up to keep quiet, to not share your opinions, to not care, not say anything if people are making you uncomfortable, then you don't think you have the right to set a boundary. And that was one of the biggest parts of this, was not only what boundaries are, but maybe why you don't have them. What are those beliefs that came up, or that you were raised with, and how do we get around them? And after that, I talked about, making those decisions. Do you actually want to do something? Is it just this compelling need to people please, or is it something that you want to and can do? And I talked about communication, not necessarily just in relationships, but in general. What does it look like on the personal side? What does it look like on the professional side?
Isn't that different though today than it was, like, I don't know, when we were in high school? Like, I just feel like communication You talk to people on a dating website now, hey, download WhatsApp. I'm like, what the hell is that? How about just calling me? Like, I don't understand people today. And I'm talking about not even millennials, but people that are in their 40s. Hey, download WhatsApp. I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't even know what that is. Like, pick up the phone and call me. I just feel like people don't want to do that anymore.
Talking on the phone is definitely a lost art.
Yeah.
But again, what is okay for the relationship you're building? Maybe that is your main way of communicating. Maybe you like to text. Maybe you do need WhatsApp to have a conversation. As long as it works for both people, it's great. It's when it only works for one that you have a problem.
You have to have that in common with somebody, right? You really do. And what do you make of, going back to the dating, because that's fascinating to me. What do you make of these websites that you just swipe? It's all about what you look like, and women and men. No, yes, no, yes. But I also understand men are a little bit more visual than women are. And I understand there has to be some form of attraction there. But what do you make of this day and age where it's like swiping no and yes? I mean, it's weird. 20 years ago, we didn't do this stuff.
I think it is a shallow way of looking at relationships, not necessarily not important. Like you said, you do need to be attracted to the person. There has to be some level of attraction, or it's just not going to work at all. Hopefully we're not teaching people that that's the only thing that matters, because there are a lot of different ways to connect with somebody than just on a physical attraction level.
Mm-hmm. What would be the best advice you would give somebody that has a spouse or a friend or a girlfriend or a boyfriend, and they've never had a conversation with anybody about boundaries, and they're uncomfortable with that conversation? They don't even want to bring it up, even though there are things that are bothering them. What would be the best advice you would give that person?
First, I would say get clear on what's important, get clear on what you actually do want, and then practice it with somebody. We go into important conversations, we go into important sales meetings, we go into all of these things, and we practice beforehand. Pull a friend that you are comfortable, failing in front of. Pull a friend aside and say, hey, can we just run through this? And explain the situation, and then talk it through. Let them push back so you get to see what that feels like. But just practice.
And what do you do if somebody's totally receptive to what you're saying? What do you do?
You have a choice at that point. You can either accept it, which we can always do. We can always say, hey, you know what, that is a boundary, but maybe it's something that, is discussable for me. Like, maybe I'm okay if that's not a part of my life, or it's not okay. And if they're not willing, then that's when you're cutting ties.
Yeah, unfortunately, that happens in life, right?
It does.
You have to cut ties with people, or maybe take a break, right? Doesn't have to be cut ties forever. Maybe take a break, and maybe they admit that they're wrong. How do you feel about exes? Contacting exes and remaining friends. How do you feel about that?
So it's funny, because I used to be friends with all of my exes. I considered it a badge of honor. We had a nice, healthy breakup and we're fine. And then I started dating my husband, and he wasn't comfortable with it. And he kind of made me realize, why am I holding on to these people? And maybe it wasn't the healthiest of relationships. And I knew it was important to him. I knew that I wanted to have healthier relationships in my life. And so I did cut ties. That doesn't work for everyone.
And again, it's a case-by-case basis, right? And it also depends on how the breakup happened. And you also have to ask yourself, okay, why do I still want to be friends with this person?
Exactly.
If there's no chance of getting back together, then you have to accept that. And you have to say, I'm okay with that. Let's be friends. But if you can't accept that, then you probably shouldn't be friends with that person, right?
Absolutely.
All right. So I want you to give out that information again, Cheryl. The book, where you can find it, where can you get your hands on this thing, and what it's all about before we go?
So how you can say no, how you can say no. Hello, you had me at no. It's been a long day. Is available on Amazon. You can also go to youhadmeatno.com, and you can get the exact link there. And there's also a free How to Say No cheat sheet that you can download.
And I applaud you writing this book, because I just feel like communication is so important in life. Not just in relationships, but your job, your occupation, family, friends. People have forgotten how to communicate with one another especially in this day and age. And maybe I'm at fault for that as well when I get frustrated with people and I call them names. Maybe I shouldn't do that, but I can't help myself. But anyway, Cheryl, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much for the book and writing this book. And I think you're helping out a lot of people, and I appreciate what you do. Please get your hand on this book, and we appreciate Cheryl Green joining us. Speaking of communication, we have a Republican debate tonight. Amy Tarkanian, the former Republican chair, will be joining us tomorrow for reaction to that. You'll get reaction from me. And if anybody crossed any boundaries in the debate, I'll be the first one to talk about it tomorrow. I promise you that. So it should be interesting, folks. Look forward to Amy joining us. And, of course, former NBA veteran Paul McKeskey will be joining us. Just had dinner yesterday at the new restaurant Brett Raymer over there at Santa Fe Station. I shouldn't say it's the same restaurant, only it's at a new location, and the old location is still there, Stallone's. But now we have a second location of Stallone's at Santa Fe, and I had a great time with our mutual friend, the Slipbox, Robin and Brian Slipbox, the owners of Jackson's Bar and Grill. That's actually how I met Cheryl. And we had a great time. I also hung out with Jay Bloom over there, and of course, Brett Raymer. So go out and check it out, please. Stallone's over there at Santa Fe Station. Wonderful place and great people like Brett who are running the show over there, and it's awesome food. I had the best lasagna of my life yesterday. Thanks for joining us, everybody. My thanks to my guests. We had quite a few today. We have 3 guests. Daniel Lippman from Politico, great reporter. Thank you to him. Former presidential candidate Joe Walsh. Love having Joe on the show, as always. And, of course, Cheryl Green. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Ringwood Road, half a mile east